Tonight, at least 7 people killed and 10 others kidnapped in separate attacks by bandits on Jukun, Kajuru and Giwa local government areas of Kaduna State. Zamfara Police Command parades suspects linked to banditry in the state, including a student who allegedly posed as a bandit leader to demand 3 million naira from his school principal. Police dispersed Euroban Nation coalition group protesters in Lagos with water cannons. Dismissed claim that a 14-year-old girl found dead near the scene was killed by stray bullet shot by security operatives. And 43 migrants drowned after their boat sank off the coast of Tunisia while attempting to cross the Mediterranean to reach Europe.
Adult business news tonight. OPEC Plus countries expect a deal on output cut on Monday following their failure to reach an agreement yesterday.
And on sports news tonight, Denmark holds off a second-half rally from Czech Republic to reach the Euro 2020 semi-finals for the first time in 29 years.
We begin on a rather sad note in Kaduna State, where at least 7 people have been killed and 10 others kidnapped in separate attacks carried out by bandits in Jukun, Kajuru and Giwa local government areas. Amongst the victims were 4 persons said to have been kidnapped and shot dead by the bandits at Tosongayan community in Jukun local government area, while another 2 were also killed at Iri Station in Kajuru local government area. Some of the residents have been narrating how the incident unfolded.
It was around 1:00 a.m. that we just had different guns in all the locations. It seemed like they have taken over the town. So, and they continue to shoot, but at the end of the day, people started screaming. They were screaming, and in fact some of us, even at our door, they will come and they push into people's house, and at the end of the day we discovered that 10 of our people were abducted and 2 were killed. And this is the state now. And besides that, these people were saying that they were the small group, that their big people will be coming back. And so we don't know what we have done to them, and we don't know what to do now. We're in the hands of the government. We wish the government should find solution to put security stand here so that our life will be secured and our property.
The State Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Mr. Samuel Aruwan, who led security operatives to the affected communities, describes the incident as terrible, assuring them that everything possible will be done to stop the violence.
We've lost about 7 citizens. 4 of many citizens that were kidnapped in Kakao General area of Chukun local government were shot dead yesterday, and 1 other person was killed in Galadimawa General area of Giwa local government. And in the early hours of today, 3rd July 2021, we got a distress call from Iri Station in Kajuru local government, and 2 citizens were killed. So we came here to see things for ourselves. We came here with security agencies for a general assessment that I cannot be able to talk more about it. But from what we have all seen, you can see issue of mobility, accessibility to this place is also a major factor. But by the special grace of God, security agencies will do the best that they can. And there is also a confidence building visit so that you engage citizens. There are ways, there are multidimensional ways that citizens and security agencies can partner so that we contain this situation.
Staying with security issues, the Zamfara State Police Command has paraded suspects in connection with banditry and other related crimes. One of those arrested is said to be a senior secondary school student of the federal government college Anka, who allegedly posed as a bandit leader and demanded the sum of 3 million naira from the principal of the school. According to the police commissioner, another student in Gusau Metropolis wrote a letter threatening to kidnap a reverend sister who is the principal of his school, as well as students.
Another suspect in connection with threat to attack Federal Government College Anka was equally arrested after he called on the principal of the school to drop 3 million naira somewhere for him, or else he will go and attack the students of the college. On receipt of the complaint to the DPO swung into action. He was able to track the caller to at Bakura local government. He was subsequently arrested and confessed to the crime. On 25th June 2021, a letter in respect of the above subject matter was found close to the suggestion box of Dominican College, located in Shaiskawa area, Gusau. The content of the letter was a threat to the kidnapping of the principal of the school, Reverend Sister Chinyere, OP, and the students of the school. On receipt of the complaint, police detectives swung into action and arrested the suspect, called Donatus AJ, as the principal suspect. On interrogation, suspect was discovered to be an SS3 student of the school.
From the north, we head to the southeast, where the police command in Abia State has nabbed a gang that specializes in kidnapping their victims and demanding for ransom. More than 8 suspects were arrested by the police. 2 of them killed their victim after collecting a ransom of 700,000 naira and sold his Lexus vehicle for 200,000 naira. Briefing journalists in Umuahia, the Commissioner of Police asked residents to be extra vigilant when purchasing used products to avoid buying stolen property. Calm has returned to the Ojota area of Lagos State after police dispersed a rally organized by the Euroban Nation group. Police used water cannons to break up the protesters who gathered at the Ganifawemi Freedom Park for the rally. The Lagos State Commissioner of Police, Hakeem Odumusu, says the protesters did not obtain permission to stage the demonstration, as his office did not receive any letter from the group. Our correspondent Chris Alems has this report.
It's Saturday, 3rd of July. Ojota has a date with another rally. This time, it's by some Yoruba coalition groups calling for the actualization of Euroban Nation. As far as they're concerned, there must be a referendum to decide their fate.
It is not about saying disintegration, that is their own language. We are saying peaceful and very orderly disengagement.
They defy the heavy presence of security personnel and even the Commissioner of Police to drive home their demands.
Wearing uniform doesn't mean anything. They are suffering too. The federal government are not taking care of them. Their welfare is zero.
While acknowledging their right to protest, The Lagos Commissioner of Police, however, denies they got permission from him to stage the rally.
We've been here now because we don't want the rally to be hijacked by news, and that's why we are providing security. We did not receive any letter in the past 48 hours. It's Thursday, so if any letter has been written since Thursday to today, so let the acknowledgement one be brought out. I think it's any letter. We do two of us to let the miscreants know that we are ready to take care of them if they continue to violate the law. And the other part is that we use the two of us now to let members of the public know that that is the law-abiding members of the public, that we are ready to protect them.
With tension rising, a clampdown on the protesters begins. The police deploys water cannon to arrest the situation. The police appear to have kept their promise not to allow a breakdown of law and order in the city. However, by staging this rally, the protesters have also made their voices heard. Crystal Lamps, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, the 14-year-old girl was said to have been hit and killed by a stray bullet close to the scene of the Ojota rally. But the Lagos State Police Command has dismissed claims that the girl was hit and killed by a police bullet, saying it's a rumor being circulated to cause confusion and fear amongst the residents. In a statement, the command explains that officers deployed to the venue of the rally did not fire live ammunition and that the body of the teenager was found wrapped and abandoned in an area behind a filling station away from the venue of the rally. The police further explained that the body of the girl had dried bloodstains, suggesting that the corpse was not fresh, and a closer look showed injury from a sharp object. While urging the general public to disregard the news, the police promised that it will investigate the circumstances surrounding the death. The Ogun State government has called on the federal government to immediately secure the release of a Nigerian citizen, Pastor Kunle Gab, currently in detention in Benue Republic. Pastor Gab, a resident of Ibokofi village in Yewa North local government area, was reportedly abducted at the village market last week by officials from Benue who crossed the border with a Nigerian to carry out the act after scaring away traders and other people from the market. The pastor, who is also an activist, has been consistently campaigning against the harassment of Nigerians by Benue officials in attempts to annex the Nigerian territory. According to the Ogun State government, he has been charged to a court and remanded under harsh conditions and prevented from seeing his lawyers, doctors, as well as his family members. In his protest to the federal government on the development, Governor Dapo Abiodun had narrated the ordeal of Nigerians living in border towns the state shares with Benue Republic, and he called for prompt action by relevant authorities to prevent further harassment of Nigerian citizens in territorial borders. He is also appealing to the National Boundary Commission to step up action and clearly divide Nigeria's international borders with Benue Republic, while calling on Nigeria's security agents to also properly secure the border communities. In part two, after the break, is excitement in Kano as the 15th Emir of the Asian city, Alhaji Aminu Ado Bayero, formally receives his staff of office. That's in a moment. Join us again. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. At least 7 people killed and 10 others kidnapped in separate attacks by bandits on Jukun, Kajuru and Giwa local government areas of Kaduna State. Zamfara Police Command parades suspects linked to banditry in the state, including a student who allegedly posed as a bandit leader to demand 3 million naira from his school principal. Police dispersed Euroban Nation coalition group protesters in Lagos with water cannons. The band claims that a 14-year-old girl found dead near the scene was killed by stray bullets shot by security personnel. And 43 migrants drowned after their boat sank off the coast of Tunisia while attempting to cross the Mediterranean to reach Europe. Some leaders from the 4 Ogoni-speaking local government areas of River State are making fresh demands to the federal government to immediately begin a comprehensive implementation of the recommendations by the United Nations Environment Programme on the restoration of their polluted lands. At a meeting in Bori, the traditional headquarters of the Ogoni people, the leaders expressed worry over the current implementation of the UNEP report, saying it's slow and not comprehensive. They also decried the increasing rate of unemployment in their communities.
Ogoni, an ethnic group with 4 local government areas in River State, is popular for its struggle for social and economic rights. The agitation was inspired by environmental pollution as a result of years of oil exploration, which led to the destruction of their local economy. Responding to their protests, the federal government in 2016 flagged off the implementation of the recommendations by the United Nations Environment Programme, UNEP, to restore the land. 5 years down the line, the people say the impact of the federal government's intervention is still not being felt.
The contamination in our area is nothing comparable to what we're supposed to have had. And the children themselves too, because it's creating enough, they don't have anything. The restiveness is from there.
I have not seen anything good that they have offered Ogoni people. Rather, they will make thousands, millions of promises and no one will be fulfilled.
A group under the auspices of Ogoni Liberation Initiative gathers to show their displeasure, and after much deliberation, they resolve to partner local and international organizations with some demands from the federal government.
As the result of decades of spills and pollution caused by the oil explorations and exploitation, our people's heads have been granted. Thus, there is an urgent need for the commencement of health audit in Ogoni land and subsequent establishment of medical research institutes. The Ogoni people are tired of long years of economic slavery and thus are ready to receive and work with our investors with reputable records that are willing and ready to invest and develop our land.
The people of Ogoni believe that a cooperation from all parties involved will be a step in the right direction towards restoring the land to its clean state and further ensuring the people get back their means of livelihood.
The petroleum industry bill may have been passed, but the issue of the disparity in figures allocated to host communities as operating costs may remain a huge issue. While the Senate approved 3%, the House of Representatives passed 5%. However, the chairman of the House Committee on Host Communities is hopeful that when both chambers harmonize the bill, the lawmakers will agree on 5%. In this next report, our correspondent Terry Kumi looks at the PIB from the point of view of the host communities.
The situation with host communities of oil-producing companies has always been dire. They have borne the brunt of the pain associated with the oil and gas industry. They have lost their sources of livelihood, suffered underdevelopment, and lost their lives in some cases due to pollution. Having suffered so much despite hosting these oil companies, the communities have struggled to be heard. This is one of the reasons why the petroleum industry bill was very much canvassed. In September 2020, when the executive bill was transmitted to the National Assembly, a provision of 2.5% of operating cost of oil companies was made for host communities. But at the public hearings at the National Assembly, the host communities insisted on more.
10% equity share that will make us part and parcel of the business. 10% will definitely, not just 10%, equity share, so that when the government and the company loses, we lose as well.
While passing the PIB, the provision of the operating costs due to host communities was adjusted from 2.5% to 5% in the House of Representatives, while that of the Senate was passed at 3% amid opposition from Niger Delta senators who insisted on 5%.
We are talking about 5%. The 5% is not too much. You have headed this place very well. We admire your administrative style. We agree with you on almost every issue. This one is a very naughty one, Mr. President.
This is the Senate's explanation.
Law is not infinite. In 2 months, anybody can bring an amendment. I will look at it. There's no problem with that. But as at today, what is going to go to these host communities is 3%. And 3% translates to over $500 million annually. $500 million is a lot of money.
Another controversial area passed was the fund exploration of frontier basins, which the Senate left at 30%, while stakeholders in the Niger Delta had demanded that it should be reduced to 10%. Meanwhile, Chairman of the House of Representatives Committee on Host Communities is surprised at the development, but hopeful of the 5% after concurrence.
There will be harmonization. There's going to be a conference. I also believe that at a conference, whatever went wrong will be corrected. Because anything short of 5% will not sit well with the host communities. I can tell you that.
While the host communities had demanded 10%, he believes that 5% may just be fine for now.
I think that the feelers I'm getting, the calls I've received, the discussions I've had so far, point to the fact that the 5% is a good start.
While the hurdle of the PIB has been scaled, the communities must be aware that getting the allocation is just as important as how the funds will be utilized. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
It was a joyful occasion for residents of Opobo in Opobo local government area of River State today, as the only access road to the coastal kingdom has now become a reality after 150 years. During the commissioning of the road, Governor Nyesom Wike said the completion of the road project marked the high point of his administration's resolve to provide critical infrastructure in the state. He also criticized politicians who failed to seek the completion of projects awarded in their communities.
The ancient kingdom of Opobo in Opobo Nkoro local government area of River State is agog with celebration. This is as Governor Nyesom Wike visits the island to commission the only access road to the kingdom after 150 years of existence, a gesture the residents hold in high esteem.
You could as well say you are not doing anything in Opobo. After all, what do we contribute? The politics is about number. But because of the humanity you brought to governance, Your Excellency, you thought that this was one of our greatest needs, and therefore this must be done for Opobo people. Look at the standard of the road you've given to us, Your Excellency. It's one of the best in the world.
The 11.15-kilometer road, a part of the 43-kilometer Ogoni and Doni Opobo Nkoro Unity Road, was awarded over 15 years ago, and Governor Wike says completing it is one of the biggest achievements of his administration.
Today, history has been made. When I came here in 2014, when we are trying to seek for a mandate to support all of us, to see how we can move River State in a positive way, I promised them, I told you one thing I can assure you, by the grace of God, I will not leave as governor of River State without you driving by road to Opobo.
Being acquainted with the history of Opobo, the special guest and former Minister of Police Affairs commends Governor Wike for adding value to governance.
I knew that to come to Opobo, I must enter a boat to come. But here am I today, coming by road. Listening to the testimony of people that Governor Wike has brought humanity into governance of River State.
He then goes on to commission the road. Observers say this project has indeed increased the potential of Okpobo with rich culture and history to fully develop into a tourism destination.
Farmers in Benue State may now have cause to smile as the state government has flagged off a special initiative to support them in their farming activities. The state government's 2021 fertilizer subsidy initiative guarantees a 50% discount on the price of every 50 kilogram of NPK fertilizer. While flagging off the scheme, Governor Samuel Ortom says the government needs to do more to stop the activities of killer herders affecting food production in the country.
Representatives of farmers in Benue State and government officials gather at the IBB Square in Makudi for the 2021 fertilizer and farm input subsidy. Under the program, the government offers as much as 50% discount on every 50 kg bag of fertilizer. The Commissioner for Agriculture and Natural Resources says with the initiative, food production has grown in the last 6 years, and the partnership with IFAD has seen the program extended to 2025. He warns against diversion of products.
This input you are going to receive today is the government's deliberate effort to subsidize fertilizer. For that reason, I want to urge you to use it for the purpose that it is intended.
The House Committee Chairman on Agriculture also encourages citizens to embrace farming, highlighting government's efforts to support the sector.
Just last week, His Excellency launched the distribution of seeds to local government. Today, he is here to flag off the sales and distribution of fertilizer to farmers. These will go a long way impacting positively to the lives of our farmers in the rural areas.
And for Governor Samuel Ortom, the farmers-herders conflict is threatening the food security the state is trying to build, while also displacing many residents. He wants the federal government to begin the process of resettling IDPs.
The federal government must facilitate the return of these IDPs to their ancestral home by completing and ending the militia herdsmen attack and killings of our people. Currently, we have over 1 million IDPs that are displaced.
Farmers in Benue State believe they can take food production to another level only if the government can guarantee the safety of their lives and property.
Nigeria operates a federal system of government with 36 states and a federal capital territory that is directly under the administration of a cabinet member of the central government. Now, although the states are considered to be co-equal with a measure of political independence from the center, the states remain largely dependent on the federal government, which on a monthly basis share revenue from the federation account with the state and local government. In this special report, we take a look at this form of federalism, which many have described as an aberration and a bane to regional development.
The dwindling revenue generated and distributed among the three tiers of government has been a major source of concern for state governors, especially as some states are no longer able to meet up with the financial obligations owing to shortfalls in the revenue allocation from the federation account. Revenue allocations to the three tiers of government between January and May 2021 revolve around 640 billion and 616.886 billion naira. Compared to 2020 figures, the allocations was between 716.30 billion and 606.19 billion naira. This shortfall in revenue generation and distribution and its impact on states now raises question on the rationale behind states' dependency on the federal government allocation.
When we were in the national conference, everyone who came for, state creation made an argument that within their own states that they have what it takes to survive. So the indolence that we are seeing is as a result of not being interested in harnessing the resources, because there is still something to be shared.
But the chairman of the Nigeria Governors Forum does not think that states depend on the central government for survival.
We have 26% of that federation account. Local governments have 20%. Federal government has 52% of it. We're not dependent on federal government.
According to data from the National Bureau of Statistics, only a few subnationals, including Lagos, Rivers, Delta, Kano, and the FCT, have internally generated revenue that could perhaps sustain their recurrent expenditure. Many states, including Zamfara, Yobe, Niger, Nasarawa, and Kebbi, are far below on the table. So what can be done to break the circle of overdependence on the federal government?
How do we ensure that what is generated goes on promoting entrepreneurship? Because that's really the key. The extent to which we can support our small and medium-scale enterprises to grow into themselves and generate more funds is how we're going to break this chain of dependency that you're talking about.
The constitutional issues that impede the ability of the states to have what you call resource democracy can be taken away by the constitutional amendments.
The problem we have with the mining is that the mineral that is below the ground belongs to the federal government. But I have the right on the surface of the ground. So how do you go under the ground without calling on the landowner to access it? And that is the crux of the matter, and it hasn't been resolved.
Every state in Nigeria is blessed with some form of natural resource. Many believe that pending when those constitutional impediments limiting states from exploring those resources for their development are resolved, governors can still look inwards and develop other means of growing their internally generated revenue.
The head of service of the Lagos State government, Mr. Akeem Muriogunla, has concluded his testimony before the Lagos State Judicial Panel on restitution for victims of SARS and other related abuses. The HOS faced cross-examination from counsel to some NSAS protesters, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Yinka Olumide Fusika, and counsel representing the Nigerian Bar Association, Bernard Oniga.
You said you got reports that armed men were shooting at the toll. Can you confirm you said? Correct, sir. Okay, and you sent ambulances to the rescue when you didn't know the identities of those armed men?
Emergency first responders, yes, sir.
Emergency first responders? Yes, sir. So I want to presume that even if those armed men were armed robbers, you will still send emergency first responders to respond to an armed robbery attack. That's usually what you do.
If we are hearing that there are casualties, that would be one of the prudent things that we would do.
I would think that you would engage the police.
We did.
The people you sent, I'm sure they have returned to give you reports. Did they tell you who it is that was shooting at the toll when they got there?
Thank you very much, Counsel. So, if you recall, my testimony is to the effect that immediately we heard that there were shootings going on. Emergency first responders were immediately alerted and deployed to this place. This includes police, the fire service, ambulance service, and all emergency responders of the state. Now, what they have reported back and what is being investigated is the responsibility of this panel. And I'm sure that at the end of this panel sitting, you would have those answers that you require, sir.
The Nigerian government has officially handed over a vessel to the Swiss government, which belongs to Switzerland. The handing over was done by an official of the International and Comparative Law Department of the Federal Ministry of Justice, Dr. Francis Ogoni. The vessel was seized by the Nigerian Navy on January the 23rd, 2018, after it failed to produce relevant documents to allow it to carry out a ship-to-ship transfer of gas oil.
We are witnessing the implementation of the Memorandum of Understanding, and that is why we are here. The vessel San Pedro Pio will be released unconditionally this minute, and the release note to that effect will be signed subsequently, and that means San Pedro Pio from this minute onward is no longer under the possession of Nigeria. It has been released to the owners who are here to sign, and it is free to navigate the maritime space of Nigeria unconditionally, unhindered from this minute. This is where we started, and this is where we are today, and we believe that this will further cement the very cordial bilateral relationship between Nigeria and Switzerland.
The Federal Capital Territory Emergency Management Agency is advocating the use of technology and modern equipment to respond to emergency communication. The Director General of the agency, Mr. Abbas Idris, mentioned this at the 2021 Flood Outlook and Review of the FCT Emergency Preparedness and Response Plan. Mr. Idris says that emergencies require timeliness and precision, which can only be achieved through deployment of modern technology and platforms for emergency response.
The rains are here, and residents of some parts of the nation's capital will not forget some of the tragedies of last year. According to the FCT Emergency Management Agency, the nation's capital recorded at least 82 flood-related disasters. Houses and farmlands were washed away as the heavy downpour claimed several lives in Gwagwalada, Suleja, and other parts of the nation's capital. According to the FCT Emergency Management Agency, 13 lives were lost and over 400 people were displaced. This is part of the effort to mitigate the impact of the disaster.
It is almost impossible to prevent, mitigate, or respond effectively if we continue to rely on our old strategies. In this light, the emergencies we face today require timeliness and precision to tackle, which can only be achieved through deployment of technology.
Emergency response plan collectively put together and periodically reviewed by the stakeholders will enhance coordination of activities and avoid a situation where stakeholders work at cross purposes when they meet in the field, and to be on the same page, knowing that what they are all respectively supposed to do.
Over the years, the FCT has had a fair share of flood disaster. In 2012, Nigeria witnessed her worst flood disaster. Gwagwalada was the only town that witnessed the disaster back then. Before then, flood was not a common phenomenon in the Federal Capital Territory. But this has changed as residents now have to contend with floods almost every time there is a heavy downpour.
Instead of spreading over a period of long time, it might come within a few months, maybe 3 months. And when you have high rainfall intensity and of a shorter duration, it will aggravate to flooding. It will, translate to flooding. And if there are no escape routes, in terms if we are having blocked drainages and they're building within the floodplains, that will mean more. It could lead to loss of property and, God forbid, loss of lives, like what happened last year, Threadmore Estate, Sunday Dewisi Estate, and other places too.
The agency is advising community leaders to ensure compliance to sensitization messages regarding waste disposal and avoid building and farming along waterways.
To some company news now. Tecno, one of the leading global brands in smartphone manufacturing, has unveiled its flagship Phantom X smartphone in Lagos. The Phantom X comes with many unique features: a 3D borderless screen, a silk glass back cover, and more.
With the array of A-list stars of the Nigerian music and movie industry present, the evening could pass as a night of stars at the premiere of a new movie or music concert. You won't be far from reality if that's your take. It's an evening to witness the official unveiling of the flagship Tecno Phantom X phone, the latest entrant into the smartphone family for Tecno Mobile.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the Tecno Phantom X.
Let's see and hear about some of the features that distinguishes this product.
You are getting a 6.7-inch AMOLED screen that gives you that immersive viewing experience when you're watching your favorite videos on YouTube, for example. If you turn the phone to the back, one thing you will notice with the Phantom X is that it actually comes with a texture design. Now, another extraordinary thing that Tecno Mobile has done with the Phantom X is to create an industry's first silk glass cover that has curves around the edges. Now, I don't know how many of you know this, but it's so difficult to get curves on both the back and the front. The Phantom X, even though you are running low on battery, a 30 minutes charge can actually get you 70% of battery juice. Just like that. And you also get to enjoy videos for up to 29 hours with that single charge.
In addition to all of that, the Phantom X is equipped with a micro lens of 50mm golden portrait to capture detailed portraits with a short focal length, comparable to professional portrait lenses.
We want to make the consumer happy at every point in time, and I mean we put in all that work into our smartphones to be able to reflect their pain points, their needs, basically in a device, in a mobile device.
For the management, Tecno is committed to unlocking the best contemporary technologies for progressive individuals across global emerging markets.
For what's happening in the world of business, here is Laddie Williams.
Thanks, Melinda. Well, in business, oil ministers from the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries and its allies ended a meeting on Friday without a resolution on oil output policy, with the UAE blocking a deal to increase supply. Analysts say failure to agree on raising output would squeeze an already tight market, risking a further inflationary price spike. However, the oil producer group will meet again on Monday next week to decide whether to keep output policy unchanged or ramp up supply. And members of the Estate Surveyors and Valuers Registration Board of Nigeria are calling on the federal government to extend its subsidy to the housing sector. According to them, this will address the housing deficit in the country, which currently stands at 17 million. Speaking with reporters in Abuja, the chairman of the Board of Estate Surveyors and Valuers and the Registration Board, Mr. Gersh Henshaw, explains that more partnership between the body and the government remains critical to addressing the housing challenge in the country.
We are already 200 million. So, as we are planning for 10,000, the population is increasing. And what do? Is continuous assessment. We will continue to partner with government, but like we said, we want government. Government gives subsidy in all sectors of the economy. Are you aware that government gives subsidy on fertilizer to farmers?
let government come also to subsidize real professional estate surveyors and valuers who are genuinely into real estate, not people who would take land to say they are doing estate and then partition it and start selling. No. Government has good intention, but implementation will run into hitches. And that is what the professional estate surveyors are trying to key into.
And to the markets now. The total value of transactions carried out this week at investors and exporters window in the forex market fell by 4.11% to $588.54 million, in contrast to the previous week at $613.78 million. However, according to latest data issued by the FMDQ exchange, the weekly average NAFEX rate rose by 0.03% to 410 naira 74 kobo against the dollar, compared to 410 naira 85 kobo to a dollar recorded in the previous week. Meanwhile, at the BDC market, the naira depreciated against the US dollar by 1.21% to close the week ended July the 2nd at 500 naira to a dollar. The FX spot, forwards and futures markets, the total turnover for the week ended July the 2nd was $767.44 million, representing a decrease of 5.02% compared to the previous week. And that's it on business news. Back to you, Melinda.
Many thanks, Ladi. The Vice President has described the ancient city of Kano as a melting pot of diverse tribes and cultures, which is home to all Nigerians and foreigners alike. Professor Yemi Oshibajo mentioned this today in Kano during the formal presentation of the staff of office to Alhaji Aminu Ado Bayero as the 15th Emir of Kano. Professor Oshibajo, who represented the president at the event, said Kano residents have coexisted peacefully regardless of their differences.
The atmosphere at the Sani Abacha Stadium in the ancient city of Kano says it all, as dignitaries from far and near joined residents of the city to witness the formal coronation of Alhaji Aminu Ado Bayero as the 15th Emir of Kano.
The Honorable Minister of Agriculture.
Dignitaries of the event include the Vice President, Professor Yemi Oshibanjo, Governors of Jigawa, Kogi, Lagos, and Sokoto States. Traditional rulers from across the nation also graced the occasion. In his address at the occasion, Governor Abdullahi Ganduje described the Emir as one who is fit for the office he occupies and asked him to continue to pursue those virtues that made his father an outstanding traditional ruler.
It may interest you to know that prior to his appointment as the Emir of Kano, people of Kano fondly called him Saikai. With due apology to our non-Hausa-speaking guest, Saikai literally means you must ascend to the throne. And through divine intervention, Almighty God used my humble self to facilitate the ascension of Alhaji Aminu Ado Bayero Saikai to the exalted throne of Kano Emirate.
Governor Ganduje goes ahead to present the staff of office to the Emir.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Alhaji Aminu Ado Bayero then addresses the gathering, promising to lead the people with the fear of God.
With all those God gave the privilege of leadership, we want to remind ourselves that God has given us a mandate to lead, and we must be faithful to our promises, and God will keep us in health to serve Him and the people.
The Vice President, Professor Yemi Oshibanjo, who represents President Muhammadu Buhari at the occasion, charges the new Emir to do all he can to sustain the peace the ancient city of Kano is known for.
We're all proud of this city,
proud of his legacy of tolerance and warmth, and we're very proud indeed that it remains a home to all and for all Nigerians, regardless of tribe and ethnicity.
Alhaji Aminu Ado Bayero has been officially crowned the Emir of Kano today at the coronation event, where we had the vice president, we had prominent traditional rulers like the Oba of Benin. The event has come to an end. However, it is hoped that the Emir Aminu Ado Bayero will have a long, peaceful and successful reign. From Kano Metropolis, Nanchin Vincent, Channels Television News.
And for what's happening in the world of sports, here is Kayode Alanyode.
Thank you, Melinda. Welcome to Sports News. We'll begin with the European Championships. Denmark have held off a second-half rally from Czech Republic to win 2-1 in Baku to reach the semi-finals with goals from Thomas Delaney and Kasper Dolberg. It is the first time Denmark have made a major tournament semi-final since their shock triumph at the competition in 1992. England thrashed Ukraine 4-0 to set up a semi-final clash with Denmark on Wednesday, July the 7th at Wembley Stadium. In sports administration, the International Olympic Committee IOC has relaxed rules around athletes protesting at this month's Tokyo Games. The IOC says athletes will be able to express their views before and after competing during victory ceremonies and at the Olympic Village, but cannot do so during events. Any gesture cannot be targeted directly or indirectly against people, countries, organizations, and or their dignity. This means athletes will now be allowed to take the knee before play begins to highlight racial injustice, speak to the media, and post online about their views or wear clothing with a protest slogan at a press conference. And that'll be all in sports news. Back to you, Melinda.
Many thanks, Kayode. On the international scene, the Tunisian Red Crescent says 43 migrants have drowned after their boat sank off Tunisia. The migrants had set off from the Libyan port of Zuwara and were attempting to cross the Mediterranean to reach Europe. Officials say a further 84 were rescued by the Tunisian Navy. The boat, which set sail on Monday night, was carrying people from Egypt, Sudan, Eritrea and Bangladesh. The vessel capsized after its engine broke down. Those rescued off the Tunisian fishing port were between 3 to 40 years old. At least 2 people have been killed and 20 others reported missing after heavy rains hit Japan's central city of Atami, triggering landslides. Several houses have been destroyed or buried. The Japanese Prime Minister has urged people in the affected areas to remain on alert while the military has sent emergency rescuers to the city. Atami, a popular hot spring resort, has had more rainfall in the first 3 days of July than it usually sees in the whole month. And the main news again. At least 7 people were killed and 10 others kidnapped today in separate attacks carried out by bandits on Jukun, Kajuru and Giwa local government areas of Kaduna State. The state government vowed that it will do everything to stop the attacks. Also today, the police dispersed the Euroban Nation coalition group in Lagos with water cannons. Dismissed claim that a 14-year-old girl found dead near the scene was killed by stray bullet shot by security personnel. And 43 migrants today drowned after their boat sank off the coast of Tunisia while attempting to cross the Mediterranean to reach Europe. That's the news at 10 tonight. On behalf of the team, good night.